Today I have a quick video on this controller right here, the SNES controller for the Switch. I recently managed to get one, so I will be talking about a few things that I do like about this controller and some things that annoy me. The main reason why I wanted this controller is that the official Nintendo Switch Pro controller has a really bad D-pad. This is annoying because the rest of the Nintendo Switch Pro controller is actually pretty nice, but if I want to play something like Mario Maker or something on the Nintendo Switch Online apps, I prefer using the D-pad. And the Pro controller's D-pad just isn't good enough. For example, it registers up inputs when you're pressing the left or right button, and that just messes everything up. You can improve it a bit by opening up the controller and putting some tape on the inside of the contacts for the D-pad, but you have to open up the controller for that and make sure that you don't break anything. And even then, I feel like that's still not optimal. It still doesn't feel quite right to me. Because of that, I've gotten used to just using the stick when I'm using the Switch Pro controller, but that is where the SNES controller for the Switch comes into play. For those games that do need a precise and reliable D-pad like old SNES games or 2D Mario games. And I'm glad to say that the D-pad on here does feel really good. It physically feels nice to use, and it also works great in-game. No more diagonal inputs when I just want to press right, for example. If you are familiar with and like the old SNES controller, then you will most likely like this one as well. Build quality wise, the entire thing feels really solid and feels really nice. It has a textured finish, which I'm not sure the older ones had, but I can't really be too sure because the ones that I have are literally older than me and maybe they were also textured like this, but that has just worn off over the years. A, B, X and Y feel very similar to the old ones, they also have this distinct click. The start and select buttons feel a little weird, but that's probably just because they are made out of rubber and they wiggle around a little bit. There is three main differences between this controller and the original from the SNES. Those being the sync button at the bottom of the controller with the LEDs for the player indication, the ZL and ZR buttons at the top, and the USB-C charging port with an LED at the top of the controller because this one is wireless. ZL and ZR are pretty clicky, but I do have some troubles reaching them without changing up my grip style. There is no screenshot button and also no home button. While I don't really care that there is no screenshot button, not having a home button is a bigger deal than I had first anticipated. Nintendo really wants you to use this controller exclusively in the Nintendo Switch Online app for the SNES, because in that one you can press ZR and R at the same time and that will act like pressing a home button. However, this does not work in any other game or app. This means that if you played, for example, a Game Boy game and now want to play something else or want to turn the console off, you have to manually walk to your console and turn it off or get another controller or just have another controller right beside you. However, even if you have, say, a Switch Pro controller right next to you, you will have to disconnect the SNES controller first by pressing the sync button at the bottom, then connecting the Switch Pro controller or just having it connected already, and then waiting a few seconds before you can do anything on that controller. This really feels unnecessary because they already changed some things about the controller by adding the ZL and ZR button, for example, yet they didn't think it was necessary to include a home button. My controller has a slight issue with the bumpers. They feel and sound different from one another. The L button is more clicky and louder, whereas the R button is softer and a little quieter. I think that is how it's supposed to be, so the problem is with the L button. This is more prominent towards the inside. However, it still works fine, so it's not that big of a deal, but I still wanted to mention it anyway. The other thing that annoys me is that you can't really buy this controller. You need a Nintendo Switch Online subscription to be able to buy the controller, and even then you need to be lucky to find one in stock, because they rarely ever get restocked, and even if that happens, you only have at most a couple of hours until they're all sold out again for the next couple of months probably. I am mostly going to be using this controller for Mario Maker or Nintendo Switch Online apps, so most of the issues that I outlined don't really affect me. If you can pick one up and are aware of the limited use cases of this controller due to the lack of sticks, for example, motion controls and rumble, then I think you should. Especially for the price, which is only $30 or euros. After all, I really like the quality and the overall feel of the controller, especially the D-pad. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and until next time.